بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. Inshallah, today we will go back to Surah al-Baqarah and from ayah number 246 to 252. This last two pages of Juz number 2, second Juz of the Quran. Surah al-Baqarah, it's the longest surah in the Quran, the second chapter of the Quran. And Surah al-Baqarah, it's like give us the news of the human being through the history since Adam alayhi salam. And the scholar said the reason in Surah al-Baqarah in the beginning of the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to tell the believers, here you go, the life is not going to be easy. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the same surah, أم حسبتم أن تدخلوا الجنة ولما يأتيكم مثل الذين خلوا من قبلكم. يعني it's not just saying I'm believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and I accepted Islam. Your life will be fun and easy and there is no any test, there is no any trial, there is no any fitan in your life. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the beginning of the book, second chapter after Al-Fatiha, He telling us about the news of the human being before and the rules that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made in the kawn, in the earth. So if you do so that and that, you will succeed. If you don't do that, you will be among the losers. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned some stories, recent story to the believers, which is stories of Banu Israel, the children of Israel alayhi salam. What they did with Musa alayhi salam and what they did after Musa alayhi salam. How they faced the trials and the fitan and the tests. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us in that story about one generation after Musa alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الْمَلَإِ مِنْ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مُوسَى. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts the story to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with Alam Tara, means take lessons and ibar from the story and see what they did wrong and what they did right. What they did right, so that's the way you will take, and what they did wrong, avoid that ways. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam about the story of Jalut and Talut. Stories, Jalut was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him as a Talut, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him as a king to go with children of Bani Israel to fight Jalut, to go back to the sacred land or the blessed land that Jalut drove them out from. After Musa alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the prophethood in the children of Bani Israel. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to send them Nabi and Malik, a prophet and the king. The prophet received the wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sharia that changed or didn't change, or to keep them following the Torah. And the king, he listened to the prophet and he lead Bani Israel to continue worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to defend the sacred land. Some prophets, they got killed by Banu Israel, and some prophets, they got denied and rejected, except the king. If the king was righteous king, So he listened to the Prophet and listened to the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the king, following his desire, his own desires, and the children of Israel, they following the king and they rejected the Prophet and the message. So after a while, after they killed a lot, many of the prophets, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uh, did not send them any prophet or any king for a while. In that time, last king, he was a bad king. He lost the box which has the real Torah and the peace from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the alwah which Musa alayhi salam and Harun left behind. And after he lost it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Jalut and his people, and they drove Bani Israel out from the land. So Jalut was bad. He was kuffar. Sallatahum Allah ala Bani Israel. So they keep asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send them a prophet until there is a lady who was pregnant. She was a rice lady. She called her son Shamun. So she sent that little boy to the rabbi to teach him the Torah, what he knows from the Torah. And the rabbi took that boy and he raised him as his son, and he taught him what he knows from the Torah and the book. And that boy was very smart, Shamun or Shamuel, or there is many different names around him, but they said Shamun. So this prophet, he was very smart, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened his heart for the knowledge, and he got all the knowledge was with the rabbi. And he went like 16 or 18 years old. He was sleeping next to the rabbi. He used to serve the rabbi and learn from him. And he found the wahy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Jibril alayhi salam to call him. So he called him with the voice of the rabbi. So he got up and he asked the rabbi, what do you need? Do you need anything to do it for you? He said, no, ya bunay. No, my son, you just go and sleep. So the rabbi, he knows that a wahy or the angel came and he called him. 3 times. After the 3rd time, he got up and he found Jibril alayhi salam, and Jibril alayhi salam gave him the rules of the Torah again, and he said, go back to your people and tell them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent you to them as a prophet. When he got back to them, he said, oh, you rushed. You're just a little young boy. You're youth. You're not a prophet. You want just to take the title so very early. Go back and learn from the rabbi. He said, no, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he told me to come to you and to start with you to apply the rules of Torah again, and to zakki him and to purify and to give you the tazkiyah. And they said, no, give us a miracle, an ayah, a sign. He said, my sign to you, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala written for you the jihad to fight in his sake, you will not accept that. You will deny that. He said, how? How we will deny that? And we had drove out from our land. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent or if he decreed upon us the jihad, we will all go. We will all go to jihad and free our land from Jalut and his people. And if you want to know if we are saying the truth or if we are lying, ask your Lord, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send us a king. Because you're a prophet, no, we need the king to lead us in the war and the battle. Then said, yes, okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send you Talut as a king. He said, who's Talut? Then he said, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send this a stick, long stick. Whoever matched that stick, who will be the king, who will be the Talut. So they came all to measure with the stick. They are short, until a man came, a humble man from among the children of Bani Israel, came with his donkey. He used to bring water from the river to sell it to them. So when they find him, he matched the stick. He said, oh, how come he will be the king and he's not from our leader, from our ashraf, from our, and he's not even he doesn't have any money. Then the prophet, he told, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen him and he increased him in the knowledge and health, and his body was huge. He was so. And the prophet, they said, okay, if he Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send you as a prophet and him as a king, give us other sign, the miracle. And Bani Israel, the children of Bani Israel, they need physical miracle. Then he said, he told them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send the box, the tabut you lost, with the angels to bring the tabut in the front of him. He said, show us. Then they found the angels, came with the tabut, with the box. This box has the Torah and what the Prophet Musa alayhi salam and Prophet Harun left, and that box had the peace from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They brought it in the front of Talut. Now they believed in Talut and believed in Shawan. So Talut, he prepared them. He said, yeah, if you want to go fight in the sake of Allah, like you asked it, and the jihad in that generation was not decreed yet, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it obligatory for you, you have to come with me. So majority of them, they went with him. So the first test they faced that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent sent Talut, and they rejected Talut until the sign of Allah came. They fall in that test. Second test will come. 80,000 of them went with Talut to the direction of the sacred land, or the Bayt al-Maqdis. Okay. He crossed the desert with them, and all of them became thirsty. They start to complain. Ask Allah to send us water. We cannot take it anymore. Then he said to them, soon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test you with a river. Whoever will drink from that river, he's not among us. He should go back. And whoever will not drink from it, he will among the believers, and he will come with me to fight Jalut. When they reached the river, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال فشربوا منه. All of them drank from the river. They said only 4,000 didn't drink, but he gave them exception. Whoever took a little bit, a handful from the river, he's with us. But if you drink a lot of that, more than that, you're not with us. Majority of them start to drink, and they don't feel any water come to their body. Whoever took just one handful and he passed the river with the Prophet Talut, he felt like he's full. So 4,000 from 80,000, 76,000 returned back. They fell in the second test. The 4,000, they passed and they reached the sacred land or the blessing land. And when they found the Jalut and his people, they said, لا طاقة لنا اليوم بجالوت وجنوده. They said, we have no power, no way to fight Jalut and his people. And they start to leave Talut. And the people stayed with Talut. Those Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُ اللَّهِ. Those who had sincere iman that they are meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have sincere belief, strong iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They stayed with Talut. How many? 310 from 80,000. When they faced the Jalut and his army, they start to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They said, رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا. Oh Allah, give us patience, صبر. وَثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَنَا وَانصُرْنَا عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ. And give us victory. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَهَزَمُوهُمْ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. Among those 310 was the father of Prophet Dawood alayhi salam. He was a mu'min with Talut, and Dawood alayhi salam himself was a young boy in 14 years old or 16 years old. And Dawood alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Dawood early age, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the jibal to sabbih with Dawood. He chose him in the very early age. So they said Dawood alayhi salam, he took a rock from the mountain and he throw it in the direction of Jalut. So the rock hit Jalut and killed him, and started to hit his army. Whoever got hit with that rock, he was killed, and they ran away from Talut and Dawood and 300 believers. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, وَآتَاهُ اللَّهُ الْمُلْكَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he chose Dawood alayhi salam to be the king and prophet in same time after Prophet Sam'un and the king Talut. Then there's some lessons we have to take from in that story. When we are not ready to take any test, we don't ask for it. We don't ask for anything. The Prophet ﷺ said, سَلُوا اللَّهَ الْعَفْوَ وَالْعَافِيَةِ. You have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only for the af and the afiyah. Don't say, if I was in the Prophet ﷺ time, I will go with him. Oh, who knows? We could be among munafiqeen or kuffar wal-'iyadhu billah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us a believers now, a mu'mineen now. We have to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do our mission in this life. So they ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a huge test, and they were not ready. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent them the prophet to teach them the Torah and teach them the book and teach them to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and purify themselves. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could make the jihad written upon them, decreed upon them or not. But they asked directly for the jihad, and they thought, we are ready. We are ready. You're not ready yet. So if you are not ready for the test, don't ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So second, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested you with something, you have to be patient with it. The patience is the key for the victory or for the Jannah. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.